Outdoor play plus learning equals STEM. Presented by Dr. Nilda Cosco.
Hello, my name is Nilda Cosco. I'm the Director of Programs at the Natural Learning Initiative, NC State University. We are at the College of Design. And today I'm going to talk about outdoor play and learning and STEM learning. Let me briefly tell you what we do and how we do it. We are a unit at the College of Design as a design assistance and research unit, and we offer assistance for creating very high quality outdoor environments for all children. We also conduct research and evaluation. We do a lot of work in professional development. We have certificate programs and short courses, and we disseminate information in our website. I'm going to show a little bit about that. So please feel free to visit our website and download whatever you need from there. We also conduct comprehensive programs that bring all these areas together. So I'm going to talk today about these outdoor learning environments and how and why they support STEM learning. But first, let's talk a little bit about nature and the impact of nature on the personal health of people and, of course, of children. And this is very important because not only these environments are for learning, they are also for health. We know that we are all part of one health, where people, the animals, the environment is a whole. And we are together in an interwoven and single interdependent system. So let's keep that in mind. That is part of the learning of children when they are outdoors. We also know that nature has a very, very high impact on health. It supports physical activity, of course, for those that can move and to support the gross motor development and ample movements outside, boosts the immune system, reduces allergies and asthma incidence, alleviates stress, and supports attention functioning. I'm not going to describe all of this in the bottom of these slides. There are a number of references if you want to follow up, and you will find more in our website. These outdoor environments or even help with reducing the occurrence of myopia in children. So in Singapore, there is a national campaign that is called Keep Myopia Away and Go Outdoors and Play. So what is all this about STEM and children that have some type of disability? I want to say that when we design these spaces, we think of all these potential types of disabilities or different abilities or different learning ways of relating to materials and learning. So this is a chart that shows that in 1,000 children, we will find probably one with a physical disability. But if you go around this circle, you will find 41 with cognitive disabilities or problems, communication, multiple disabilities, etc. So when we, as designers, go onto this environment, children's all these type of abilities, I would say, and this is our focus today, talking about STEM learning. So let's talk about outdoor play and learning and gardening. And so we see gardening as a very promising and sometimes under-researched activity for early science learning. So imagine this. Vegetables and vegetable gardens are multisensory early science learning places. The vegetables and the seeds exhibit fascinating, contrasting attributes of color and shapes and textures, all those things that we want to bring to the awareness of young children. And of course, the vegetable gardens are very dynamic. In a couple of weeks, you may go from a seed to a small seedling, and later to plants and fruits, tomatoes, etc. So it is kind of interesting to work with these short cycles of the season and the growing season with little children. And of course, the gardens bring a lot of beneficial insects. I would say just insects that perhaps are there just for the children to appreciate and to learn from. So how do we create these environments? And what are these environments? Well, we use a best practice approach. These are diverse outdoor settings with many choices for playing and learning to cater for children with very different abilities and for children that perhaps are going to stay in these environments for years, because if it is a childcare center, they are going to come when they are babies or toddlers and they're going to stay for 4 years. So these environments need to be changing. And of course, developmentally appropriate and seasonally interesting. So these are environments that are more just outdoor play areas. These are environments for learning, for hands-on activities, for full body contact, for community gatherings, for healthy eating, of course, physical activity, and of course, for STEM learning. And that is a garden, as I said before. So in a childcare center, a group installed this sign that says, in our garden, we learn to predict, plan, preserve, observe, weed, and water, measure, etc., and eat. And these are, for all seasons, as you can see. So how do we start? Well, we usually start indoors, and we bring books and arts and crafts and grow plants to take home, and we establish this relationship with the future gardens. We do garden journals. We have parents and kids working together. And of course, we pay a lot of attention to the outdoor sensory discoveries. And these are opportunities for guiding environmental engagement, full body learning. Why not? This rock is warm, as this child said once. And of course, we create reachable spaces. The spaces like these tables or planters with different heights and different ways to reach for all abilities, either adults or children. So what are these garden activities? Well, curricular activities, self-guided explorations, and teacher-child guided interactions, the conversations. For instance, the garden STEM activities could do the full experience from the collecting the fruits that they have cared in the garden, weighing, and of course, tasting. And that is part of the beauty of these activities that engage of the full senses. And so the teachers create these investigations, the apple investigations. Yes, you need to plant an apple tree, but that is easy if you are in North Carolina. And you have the full experience, collecting and harvesting the apples, counting, weighing, etc., etc. This is for the creation of the teacher, for the imagination, the creativity of the teacher. And so what about sunflower investigations? If there is space, what about planting a little sunflower patch and using it for all these explorations, counting the seeds, measuring these incredible tall sunflowers, and measuring ourselves against the flowers, like the flowers I have here in the back of my slide. Or what about more complicated concepts like photosynthesis? This is called the grass investigation, but in fact, here the fun was to see how photosynthesis works. What is that process? Well, some weeks later, we had like a sunflower, but on the floor, and for the children to be the seeds of this giant sunflower. This is fun. It's fun for everybody. It's a photo op. There is a lot of joy with these type of activities. Now, what are these projects and how do we think about these projects? Well, there is this way of working that is called the project approach, but I think many people are using it perhaps without using this name of this denomination. That is in-depth studies or investigations of a topic. Now, this has to be something real, something worth learning, and learn through a real life experience. This is very important because otherwise the engagement is not there. So let me talk a little bit, just briefly, about how to create these projects. And so we decide with the children what the topic is. And then if their interest is low, and there are no consistent goals and it's not practical, we are not going to proceed with that topic, even if it feels like it's very interesting for the teacher or for the parents. We are going to talk to the children and select something that is with a high interest for children, that is consistent goals with our goals for the center or for the class, that is practical, and then we are going to proceed. And of course, we are going to confirm and bringing a lot of abundance of first-hand experiences related to prior experiences, because it shouldn't be something that comes from a cloud with no connection to children. Perhaps it's a nearby site or just there in the place, in the home or in the institution, in the organization where children are attending. And of course, that is scientifically and culturally relevant. I'm going to show one of them. And this is very timely, right? We are almost we are in October. So what about a pumpkin project? This is a project, this is an example that I'm sharing with you, that was organized in Ashboro here in Randolph County. And I need to thank Andy Ederson, who is a technical assistant there, in fact, the program coordinator for childcare services. And so let me tell you a little bit about this pumpkin project. So in the fall, it seemed that the children were very interested about pumpkins, of course. So they were comparing apples and pumpkins. And so they had questions at that time about where do pumpkins come from? Can you eat the pumpkins? How big they are? So the decision here was, well, we are going to investigate pumpkins to expand children's knowledge on this. And so there was the creation of a web of ideas about the pumpkins. So where are the pumpkins? Well, they are on the ground, they are home, they are in the market. What are the parts of a pumpkin? What are the products of a pumpkin? Yes, a pumpkin pie, for instance, or muffins. What are the shapes of pumpkins? What are the colors? And so with these questions in mind, the children are said to investigate. And so the first explorations are very sensory. And so the pumpkins are inspected, they are cut. The groups are going to verify what are these pumpkins, how they smell, how they feel in your hands, how many seeds they have. And then they are going to maybe sort the shapes and the pumpkins. And here you can see we are dealing with math concepts and notions little by little. And as the abilities of the children are there, these are just examples. One question they had is, do the pumpkins sink or float? So the children have predictions. So some say they sink and some say they float. And then they had to test. So there was a test because, of course, this is all about experience. So what about this? How much fun these children had testing. And you know what? All floated. What an amazing findings they had. So this is very, very interesting because they got a lot of knowledge. So I'm going to stop here. I hope you are absolutely engaged and willing to go and test out with your own children or with a class of children or wherever you are working with or stay with children. So if you want more information, please go to our website. We have info sheets and leaflets. Everything is free for download. I recommend to download the Garden Activity Guide, where you will have a lot of information about creating gardens and following a sequence for engaging children, either examining parts of seeds, plants, watering and harvesting, and when to harvest the warm season vegetables or the cold or the cool season vegetables. If you want more, please continue the investigation in our website. Visit our resources, the Green Desk, and drop us a note if you don't find what you are looking for. And if you want more, we have certificate programs about outdoor learning environments for educators and for designers. If you have questions, please drop us a note. We are always there, willing to support the people that want to actually create these incredible environments for playing, for learning, for growing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nilda. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Showen Yang, and I am the moderator of the sessions. I'm an Asian woman, and I'm wearing glasses, and I have a long black hair, and I'm wearing a blue shirt, and I'm sitting at a desk in my home office. Nilda, can you introduce yourself to our participants? Nilda, I think you're muted.
I was. Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation and for the opportunity to be here. I'm Nilda Cosco. I'm originally from Argentina, so I speak Spanish. If somebody is there, I would like to say, hola, ¿cómo está? And I work at the university, so you see me in an office that is not my office today, but it has a good quality sound and it's full of books around me. And I don't wear glasses, but I do have contact lenses.
Thank you, Nilda. And thank you for sharing our audience about how outdoor learning and STEM can go together. So from your presentation, I heard a lot of common themes from all our presentation from day one to today, including STEM is everywhere, right? We don't have to purchase any expensive materials, even just a pumpkin, even just a tree, even just the leaves, that children can engage in a multiple STEM learning experiences. And I also heard about that focus on child's interest. Like when you talk about use the investigation, focus on your child's interest, and then use open-ended questions to help children engage in STEM conversation and also connect to a real life experiences. And that's what's the core idea of STEM learning experience. And I think your project, your work has been like really wonderful. So before we are waiting for participants' question, can you tell us a little bit about how do you get involved in this wonderful work?
Oh, okay. Well, as I said, I'm from Argentina. My first degree is in the psychology of the learning processes. And I worked many years with the children with disabilities through play. So I never worked in that role, looking at the disabilities. I always looked at the abilities, at the quality of life, at the enjoyment of being together and with others. So I did a lot of work outside in community work in plazas and other communities, in communities of low resources. So for me, the environment was a friend. The environment would give me the marquee, the scenario for doing many, many things, especially with full body expression. So when I moved to the US, I started working here at the Natural Learning Initiative. In fact, I'm one of the founders, that to bring all these things together. That is how the environment is also a teacher. The people that work in Reggio Emilia say it's the third teacher and all of that. But so it for me was like a natural transition, if you will. So this is called the Natural Learning Initiative. This is the title of a book of the other founder, Robin Moore. But it is about learning through nature, about naturally. So
yeah. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about yourself and your background. And we have a couple of questions. So one question is about when children were asked to predict if pumpkin float, were they also asked why they thought of that? If yes, what were some of their explanation or experiences that lead to one prediction versus the other?
Okay, so I had these stories secondhand. Unfortunately, I was not there. But in my experience, yes, you ask the children why, and they have long explanations about, to defend. It's like defend the thesis, because here we are dealing almost with a scientific method. There is an assumption, there is a thesis, and then you go and try to prove your assumption. I don't know in this case what were their explanations, but I know of other cases, with fruits. For instance, I remember one here about cucumbers, and the cucumbers were on the ground, and so we asked why the cucumbers are on the ground. They were on the ground because they were too mature, I would say. And so they said, one of them said, oh, they are having a nap. So there you can take that assumption and start talking about what is a vegetable and what is a person, and all of that. So I cannot answer fully your question, but yes, the children are asked and they are allowed to elaborate as much as they can.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nilda. And then we also have a question about, so what guidance do you have for the early childhood programs that have limited outdoor spaces?
Oh, okay. Well, I don't think that is a problem, because you can do a lot with whatever you have. It could be a childcare, it could be a home environment, or a childcare that is a home. The only thing you need is, first, you need to understand the importance of having plants and well, it could be garden, like a vegetable garden, edible garden, but in general, plants around children. And then you don't need much. In some cases, we have seen in very small places, it could be just a deck or a back porch, where even grow bags, just plastic bags, not even pots, can be used for growing plants. The question here is to understand what you want to do, and that the children have the opportunity to be in touch with the process, I would say, from the seed to the plant.
Yeah, thank you. That's great explanation, extension. And then we also have a great question about, so it's really great to learn that creating a STEM environment is not costly. So, but what suggestions do you have on how to build a STEM-rich outdoor environment that will keep providers from spending too much money?
Well, we have photographs in the website. For instance, if we are talking about sorting and classifying, a table, a texture table, for instance, that could be a table with just a leaf around with pine cones and bark and all the natural, um, items that even parents can collect. It's very, very sensory, and it's very useful for the sorting. It could be, what is round. Well, I don't want to elaborate much. I think people know what I mean. Sorting and classifying. That is one. The other one is, for instance, that same table. That could be a water table, a small water table, or a bowl or something. Could be used with water or with other type of substances, not only water. It could be jelly. Just recently, I saw one with the corn, husks, and for classifying and collecting. So I think it has to do with the creativity of the person that is going to facilitate the activity. Found objects, flowers, petals. Now it's a great time for doing the sorting with the leaves. So please do not blow all the leaves in the house or the center. Just leave them at least for 1 week for using form, looking at form, color, texture, etc. So some ideas.
Yeah, and that you talk about teacher support, right? So, and then it leads to our next question about, so for activity that require more time outdoors, do you have any suggestions for lesson planning for early learners?
It's about the time, the question, or the activity.
So, do you have any suggestions for lesson planning, like outdoor lesson planning for early learners? Yeah.
Yes. Well, I think, it depends the audience or the group, of course. But the first thing is to ask children, because they know. And if we have a walk around and we say, okay, what do we want to investigate today? They are going to come up with ideas. Of course, we always have something in our sleeve. I would say, if it is now is the time of the leaves, dropping and all of that. But it could be about birds, or it could be about sounds. It could be about storms. It could be about rain. I've seen the children engaging enormously when there is a light rain. I don't say a big storm, but even walking a little bit around with a poncho and having that very sensory experience, and looking, how the rain comes, and maybe it's just a light rain, or in the winter, collecting water and putting the bases or the cups outside and finding ice in the morning when we come back. So I think it could be a lesson as such, where you have an objective and a very clear focus on a result where you are going to get at the end. Or it could be explorations. So you start the explorations outside, and then you bring all the questions inside, and then it's a more formal type of lesson.
Yeah, I think your answer kind of cover one of the new questions about one person is asking about early learning educator planning for this kind of outdoor activity are a huge barrier, and how can educators avoid this issue? and specifically in the center-based programs that are home-based for children. So I think you kind of talk about, so bring them back to the classroom and talk about it. But do you have any other thoughts or suggestions that you can provide? Yeah.
The thought that comes to my mind, and that is something that we are so passionate about, is teacher training. Because that's sometimes it's a barrier, because it is not taught. So we are working with community colleges now to see if these type of topics could somehow permeate their programs. And so look a little bit and teach a bit about outdoor learning when the topics of child development are taught, or when the health and safety topics are taught. So the teacher feels confident and doesn't feel it's a burden. It's just a normal thing. It's just a tool that the teacher has, because she or he will know how to conduct this exploration outside and bring this information to the inside, or vice versa, to maybe whatever is learned in the inside, maybe the experiments are conducted outside, because they are usually dirty and messy.
Yeah, thank you so much. And also, in your presentation, this presentation is mainly focused on the gardening theme, right? And then in your presentation, you also talk about healthy eating, physical activity, and community gathering. Can you tell us a little bit more about how to engage STEM learning experience in these other areas too?
Yes. So I think I showed a little bit, about this kind of process between the growing the fruits and vegetables, bringing them into the class for weighing, sorting, categorizing, cutting, and preparing, because we don't say much about cooking, because cooking involves maybe a kitchen, but preparing and eating. So what happens there is, without knowing, the child is working with these notions of math, or the notion of number, the notion of collections, of sorting, of categories, of course weighing and all of that, and of course the sensory. And at the same time, they are tasting. And this is one thing that is very important, because the children that have a healthy weight are the ones that accept new flavors. And sometimes it's difficult for children to accept a new flavor. So these type of activities where there is tasting also, that is a way of classifying, because we classify tastes also. It's also a way of bringing all this knowledge together.
Yeah, thank you. It's quite interesting to hear you talk about how STEM learning experience can engage with the food experience, tasting, those kind of multisensory experiences. And also, like, personally, I'm interested in the motor play, physical activity. So also how STEM learning can incorporate in that, jump high, kicks, and then we're also go up and down. That's really quite great to know, like, STEM can be everywhere.
Yes, and let me tell you something, because you remind me a place that I visited, a healing garden, in fact, for children with disabilities. But this healing garden have in the garden places to visit that had a concave shape where you could go in and feel it with your body, that was like a bowl. Or you can go to the convex that was a hill and feel the hill, the queen or the king in the hill, and so on and so forth. So there is so much that we know with our body, not more than with our mind only, right? So there is a lot of understanding of notions that comes through the skin. So
yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's great to hear about those activities that you're just talking about. And then in your presentation or also from your website, I also noticed that a lot of work you focus is on designing an inclusive physical environment. I know from day 1 to day 3, a lot of presenters talk about teacher support, intentionality, and then like the social environment between families and practitioners. But I think what your session is unique about is the physical environment piece. And then I would like to ask you a little bit more about, so let's say for the outdoor learning that parents bring a child to a community park. And then, so how do you have any guidance for the policymakers, for the stakeholders who are really thinking about how to design an inclusive outdoor playground or outdoor play environment to make sure all children are included and are able to, involve in a lot of different learning, not just STEM learning, but also, be active and then be able to learn other stuff too. Yeah.
Well, the first thing, we do participatory design process. Mm-hmm. So we never do something by ourselves. So we do it with the community we are working with. So the first is we need to know our audience and the users. We always have a list of users and who they are and what they need. Because we need to serve those users. And then we need to serve them over time. So over time means different abilities, different needs, whatever is the age of the user. So first, I would say, know the audience, know the user. That is fundamental. Another thing we do is I think in the presentation I said, we have an approach that is based on best practice indicators. Mm-hmm. We know that there are some items that should be always presented and offered to serve the different needs of the user. So sometimes designers have great ideas, but then there are great ideas in their own heads, and they had nothing to do with the people that are going to use that space. So we need to ask, and we need to get feedback. So that is fundamental. You mentioned policymakers, and I think that is like a different type of group or audience we need to have conversations with, because the policies are very powerful. So, and the policies that are grounded in best practices or evidence-based items or components are the best, because they are going to require the institution to do things that most likely will have a good impact on the behavior or the health of whoever uses that space. So for policymakers, I would say I would invite them to look at the research and to look at the applied research, because there are also a lot of theories, but then how do you apply the research? That's why we are very conversant with best practice indicators that are evidence-based activities or components.
Yeah, thank you, Nilda. I really like your point about understand who will be use those equipment, and then knowing that how we can design the play equipment to make sure all children are able to participate in that experience. And then one thing I also want to follow up is you talked a lot about teacher support, and then so I wonder what's your thoughts on the peer interaction during the outdoor play environment, and how, in your experience, how peer interaction can support STEM learning during the outdoor play environment?
Oh, I think it's fundamental. I've been, a witness of incredible conversations between children. So these interactions are fundamental, because they kind of create their own dialogue and their own understanding of the world. We use a theoretical background that is called the affordances, that is from the perceptual psychology. That is what the environment offers and how the children make it understand and read from the environment. So it's the same what happens when there are interactions. There is a rich dialogues, there are conversations that bring ideas up. I've heard incredible conversations between children, especially if the environment is rich. Because if the environment is just a piece of play equipment and wood chips, there is not much to do. But if there are plants and fruits and leaves and other twigs, there is always a lot of interactions and planning, and the fantasy that they bring also help them. How can I say, elaborate on these notions and verbalize the notions, which is at another level, if possible, of knowing about the environment.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all this wonderful information, Nilda. So I know our time is coming up soon, but just wanted to see, do you have any final advice for the professional teachers or families who of children with disabilities are thinking about engaging STEM learning in an outdoor play environment?
Well, I think just to finish, I would like to say we are always 100% ourselves. It doesn't matter if we have this learning ability or disability or call it anything. We are always 100% ourselves. There is no other Nilda somewhere else that is 100 and I'm at 75%. So this is very important when we relate to children and we offer all these opportunities. They are going to take them at 100% of themselves. So this is very important to recognize. And nothing better than the natural environment. And today, with the pandemic, the natural environment is our salvation, is where the beneficial insects and microorganisms are that are going to help us be strong. So I think these are my concluding thoughts.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Nilda, and feel free to navigate their website, have a lot of wonderful information. And thank you for coming to our session. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.